Back here on the Roto Experts in the morning as we get you ready for Fantasy NASCAR this week at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Go to RotoExperts.com right now. Read Sean Engel's full preview as he gets you ready for racing this week on DraftKings, Yahoo, and NASCAR Fantasy Live. But Sean back on the show today to help you get ready for DFS Fantasy NASCAR. Sean, good morning, and let's get right to it. Charlotte Motor Speedway has always been known as the house of Jimmy Johnson, but Jimmy doesn't have a lot of momentum lately. Should I have any second thoughts about starting him, or is the history just too good?
You shouldn't have any second thoughts about him. Jimmy Johnson has had some of the best stats at Charlotte. He's a 7-time winner, which is the most of active drivers. He has the highest driver rating of 109.0. and even an average running position of 8.563 within 29 starts. Despite his poor All-Star performance, never fully count him out. The stats just clearly show it.
So talking about the All-Star race, we saw Logano win that. How much can we use the All-Star race as a barometer for what happened in the real race this week? Because it's a different type of race in the All-Star race.
You can use the All-Star race as a barometer, but however, he has good stats to back up the fact that he's done well at the All-Star race. He has an average finish of 7.5 within the last 4 Charlotte races. That's only second best in the entire Sprint Cup Series behind Kevin Harvick. Just that fact alone means that he's been a really good performer the last few times he went to Charlotte. And on top of that, he qualified second. That's one of the best positions to go for when you're trying to win the race. So look for Logano to be a top pick as well this week.
So, yeah, Logano won the All-Star race, but overall, how much can we look at the All-Star race for any driver to use this as a barometer for how they're going to perform?
Well, the All-Star race is kind of used by some drivers as a bit of a test session. That's exactly what Jamie McMurray said after he wrecked out early and was just running laps. But it's a good way for drivers to get the feel of their cars, and it's almost like an additional practice session for them. So when they try to get their cars good, in the end, it helps them become better picks for fantasy.
Now, what about Carl Edwards? Are we going to see another backflip this week? And can you really pair Edwards and Johnson together in DraftKings?
Well, you could also pair him with Logano, too, because I think Logano is also a really good pick with Edwards. But Edwards is the defending race winner, and he has an average finish of 4.8 within the last 4 Charlotte races. And look at his All-Star performance. He came back from a pit road speeding penalty that sent him to the tail end of the longest line of about 15th to come back and finish 4th. If that doesn't speak volumes about his performances at Charlotte, then I don't know what does.
Let me ask you this. As a NASCAR fan, was it getting too boring when Jimmy Johnson was winning all those championships? Is it more exciting to watch the Sprint Cup Series nowadays because you got guys like Logano and Edwards and you just don't know who's going to win the championship or you don't know who's going to win any race?
Yeah, it has been exciting. Just overall this season, there's been a few close finishes. There's been a few close finishes, actually, where the drivers were about to crash. And then there's always the case of fuel mileage. There's been a lot of exciting stuff happening this season, and it's good to see a variety of names heading up to the top of the wins list.
Martin Truex Jr. is on the pole. What do you think of Truex? The fact that he took the pole, he's had a pretty good season. What do you think of Truex as a pick this week?
Truex is a pretty strong option, in my opinion, because, like I said with Logano, having a high start position is pretty crucial when it comes to this track. Because drivers that tend to start within the top 10 have been the highest percentage of winners throughout Charlotte. As well as the fact of the matter is that he's also a part of the Joe Gibbs Racing group, even though he's a part of Furniture Row Racing. They have that technical alliance, so don't count him out.
All right, I won't count him out. But you know what? People can count out Casey Kane if I start him in my fantasy lineup. You know I always joke about this and laugh about this. Casey Kane, who's $8,000 on DraftKings, whenever I start him, he wrecks or doesn't meet expectations. If I leave Kane out of my lineup, then he seems to do well. I'm going to leave Kane out of my lineup this week, and you like him.
Well, I really do like him, and the stats clearly show it. Driver rating of 97.4, which is third best, 4 wins, and an average finish of 13.267, which is fifth best out of 24 starts. He's got a real good, solid salary for lineups this week, and Charlotte has been one of his best tracks statistically. He's in the top 5 or 10 in many categories, and fantasy owners should take advantage of this, knowing that he's very likely going to have a solid race here once again, unless you happen to start him again.
Yeah, what happens if I start Kane? Then you know what happens, right?
Well, yeah, he's either going to wreck or you don't even know. He might run out of fuel by the end.
Yeah, Casey Kane, just bad luck with me and him. You also like the rookies a lot, Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott. A lot of people have talked up Chase Elliott, but Blaney's having a terrific rookie season. You like them both this week.
Yes, I do. In fact, Ryan Blaney has been pretty consistent lately, going on a streak of 3 consecutive top 10 finishes. 2 of those finishes even have positive place differential, and he also finished in the top 15 in his last Charlotte start. This really makes him good value for fantasy live owners and DraftKings players, especially for a guy who's very likely to get close to the top 10 this week. And Chase Elliott, he's been another really good performer this season, and on intermediate tracks, I expect him to do well again, just like how he did in the Sprint Showdown.
Who are some of the drivers you want to avoid this week?
The 2 drivers that I want to avoid this week are Paul Menard and Michael McDowell. Both of them pretty much have not seen a lot of standout success at this Charlotte, with Menard only having 1 top 10 finish ever since he became a part of Richard Childress Racing years ago. And McDowell's best finish at Charlotte is 29th. Both of those are not very good stats to start with. But then again, you also have an overall pass differential of -3 with Menard, or an average finish of 35.38 with McDowell. The stats clearly show that for both drivers, this is far from their best track. So
now,
it's not recommended.
You also like Brian Scott as a discount driver. He's very low priced on DraftKings this week.
Yeah, his low value it's pretty playable in my opinion, especially if you need somebody to fill out your lineup and somebody you're just hoping to finish. He's a good pick for that.
Sean, I have one question. It's Sussman here.
This is
just
Greg,
to cut you
Greg
off.
Sussman here.
It's Sussman here. I have an important question. I'm not playing a DFS NASCAR lineup, but it's very important that I get the answer here from you, Sean. What are your thoughts on your father's beard?
Well, it is pretty hairy.
but I'm glad we brought in Greg here, though, because Greg usually doesn't get to talk enough Game of Thrones with our guests or our co-hosts. Sean loves Game of Thrones, Greg.
Yeah, so Sean, this Memorial Day weekend, you got to make sure you hold the door.
Yeah, indeed I have to do.
You do. You absolutely do. No, your father told me this morning, you said his beard's very hairy. He's actually gaining, and he asked me if I got a haircut yesterday, which I did. So I asked him the same, and he told me he's gaining hair rather than losing hair at this point, which is nice.
That's pretty nice. It is pretty nice.
What are you guys doing for Memorial Day this weekend?
Well, probably gonna sit back, relax at home, maybe watch the Coca-Cola 600, maybe catch the Met games.
Beautiful.
We'll figure it out as we go along.
I love it. That is an Engel Memorial Day weekend for sure. Mets, Coca-Cola 600.
But good food, right, Sean? It's always about good food.
Oh yeah, you can't have a good Memorial Day without good food. It's essential.
Absolutely. Sean Engel, follow him at SeanMan247 and hear him every week here on the RotoExperts in the morning. Thank you, Sean. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too.